I haven't been here for a couple months. Can't blame me.
Well, maybe she missed you. She's do that.
Okay, you ready to go, guys?
Yes, sir. Right.
Good evening. I call the December 19, 2023 meeting of the Sarpy County Commission to order at 7 p.m. Ms. Jack, would you please call the roll?
Whitfield,
Here.
Giff,
Here.
Ackley,
Here.
Bernock,
Here.
Cheney, Huddleston,
Here.
Dembinski, Preston,
Here.
Igardner, Weiss.
Here.
We have a quorum.
I invite you now to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a public meeting subject to the Nebraska Open Meetings Act. A current copy of the law is located on the north wall of this room. Please feel free to review the law before making any comments. I'd like to do an introduction of the planning staff and legal counsel. Don Simon, Planning Director, Jason Kubicek, Planner, Kelly Jack, Planning Coordinator, Kayla Hathcote, Deputy County Attorney, Lisa Timby, Permit Technician, and Jose Garcia, IS Support Specialist. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from the prior meeting. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 21st, 2023.
Motion to approve is written.
I'll second.
Mr. Chairman, can we do a voice roll call on that? I did not put the item in for electronic voting.
Okay.
Whitfield,
Abstain.
Giff,
Yes.
Ackley,
Yes.
Bernock,
Yes.
Huddleston,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
and Weiss.
Abstain.
Motion carries.
Okay, let's move on to the public hearing portion of the meeting. Each agenda item will adhere to the following format as detailed in the Sarpy County Planning Commission's bylaws. The planning staff will introduce and briefly explain the agenda item. The applicant or the applicant's representative will be given 5 minutes to provide information about the project to the commission. After the applicant's presentation, I'll open the floor to public comment. Please keep your comments relevant to the agenda item and to keep the meeting moving. Please avoid repeating what others have said. Once all parties that wish to speak have done so, I'll close the public comment portion of the agenda item. The applicant or the applicant's representative can respond to any questions or concerns raised and rebut any comments. Next, I'll close the public hearing and the meeting, and the members of the Planning Commission will discuss the agenda item. During this discussion, commissioners may ask questions of anyone involved in the project. There is no requirement for rebuttal from others. There is also no time limit for this discussion. We will now move forward with the first item on the regular agenda for tonight. Item 1 is a comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use map from low to medium density residential and residential estates to light industrial on 2 parcels legally described as Lot 1 Skelgas addition and the northeasterly part of tax lot 1A1 in section 22, T13 north, R12 east of the 6th Post Meridian, Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located southwest of South 87th Street and Platteview Road. The applicant is the City of Papillion.
Mr. Chairman, will you also read the second item? The staff report addresses both. But in the first, the City of Papillion is the applicant, and in the second, Sarpy County is the applicant.
Okay, I'll read that as well. Thank you. The second item is the comprehensive plan amendment to change the growth management zone maps from urban reserve zone to rural development zone on 2 parcels legally described as Lot 1, Skelgas Gas Addition, and the northeasterly part of tax lot 1A1, all in section 22, T13N, R12E of the 6th Post Meridian, Sarpy County, generally located southwest of South 87th Street and Platteview Road. The applicant is Sarpy County Planning and the Building Department.
Okay. Thank you. We've for tonight's zoning agenda items, notifications were mailed to property owners within 300 feet of the subject property, and in accordance with the Nebraska Public Meetings Act, signs were posted at the applications were made in a local newspaper. So good evening, gentlemen. We have basically 2 projects tonight with a multitude of applications for each one, but basically 2 projects. So I'm going to kind of present as we go through with the motions as well. So I'll start with the City of Papillion's, just kind of briefly go through the summary of those and then get started on the comprehensive plan amendment. So the City of Papillion has 4 agenda items tonight. An amendment to change the future land use from low to medium density residential and residential estates to light industrial. And then also with that, the growth management zones, changing those, and then rezoning from ag to light industrial, preliminary plat, and then a final plat. So Sarpy County is a co-applicant on the comprehensive plan amendment, which will adjust the county's growth management zone. So we're actually the applicants for that one because there was a recent resolution by the Sarpy County Wastewater Agency to remove this from their boundaries, this property from their boundaries, so they're not intending to service it with sewer from the sewer agency. So therefore, with our agreement with the sewer agency as partners, we will remove that from our growth management zones as well. So this is these are the applications for the City of Papillion. This is existing. This is the proposed light industrial for the future land use. And then this is the county's existing, it's urban development zone, but it's going to be turning to rural development zone. The subject property is generally located southwest of 87th Street and Platteview Road and includes 1 platted lot and a tax lot totaling approximately 8.2 acres. The applicant is proposing one 8.2 acre lot for the construction of water treatment facilities, which is an expansion of current facilities at 15406 South 87th Street. To the immediate south of the subject property. The current facility provides water service to area businesses, residences, city facilities, and county facilities. It was constructed around 40 years ago, and it includes treatment for water pumped from the city well fields, located about 1 mile south of this location along the Platte River. And just kind of going to talk through the zoning as well. Papillion has requested the zoning to be light industrial, which permits a public utility to operate. Other districts that permit the same use either had too large of a lot size minimum or were less flexible for future expansion of the Papillion plant. Papillion will be required to meet the light industrial performance standards for noise, odor, vibration, or air quality issues, which are in the light industrial zoning. The proposal is subject to the highway corridor overlay and landscaping regulations requirements. So Papillion has submitted preliminary landscape drawings and easement for a 20-foot landscape buffer, building profile exhibits, which were included as exhibits in the recommendation report packet. Just kind of wrapping up some of these items here. This is the preliminary plat for Lot 1. And just to kind of explain, I mentioned the landscape, I call it easement, but it's really the buffer where the landscaping will go, but no structures are allowed. There will be a required filing of a restrictive easement on that area. And so that's on the outside of that area. There's the final plat. So it's really just simply combining the two lots. There is a slight issue with right-of-way from our county surveyor. Had made comment about the right-of-way was never fully dedicated when Skelgas platted years ago. And so that issue will have to be resolved with either Feral Gas, who now owns Skelgas, or Papillion also owns a strip along their existing facility there too. So that's going to be a condition of the motion, the recommendation. So the lot 1 Henry's Acres to the south of the existing Papillion facility, along with lot 1 Skelgas on the subject property, were platted in the late 70s and are both zoned to light industrial. So there is light industrial in the area. Concern was brought up that if Papillion decides to abandon the public utility use and sell the property in the future, potential land use conflict could occur with the light industrial zoning. To counteract any potential conflicts, the county will recommend verbiage within the subdivision agreement that prior to any sale, the city shall consider changing the zoning and future land use to meet the highest and best use of land at that time. And of course, this is in Papillion's future land use area, or their future growth area. So that will be of their concern as well at that time, I'm sure. So for the comprehensive plan, Kayla, can I ask you a quick question? We had the comprehensive plan. The chair read through the motion on that. Should I just read through the comprehensive plan amendment motion and then come back up for the others? Okay. Staff recommends approval of the proposed amendments to the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan to change the future land use map to light industrial and the growth management map to rural development zone on the subject property. Staff makes these recommendations as the proposal meets the requirements of the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan zoning regulations. If you have any questions, let me know. There's a lot going on here for applications, so we can work through it together, I think. Here. Thanks.
I will now open this item for public input. Is there anyone that would like to address the board?
Good evening. I wasn't sure if I should speak right now or since the county is the applicant on one of these agenda items, but I'm Alex Evans, City Engineer and Deputy Public Works Director of the City of Papillion, 9909 Portal Road, Papillion, Nebraska 68046, as representative for the applicant, City of Papillion. Thank you for your time and consideration of this item and the subsequent items related to it. I plan to give just a quick overview at this time, but then for subsequent items, I will be available for questions. So City of Papillion owns and operates a public drinking water utility. The water treatment facility, as Jason mentioned, is just south of 87th and Platte V Road. Our water treatment plant currently provides drinking water service to a population of approximately 40,000 people, including those in Papillion's municipal boundary as well as unincorporated Sarpy County. The Papillion's water utility service boundary, just for reference, extends from approximately Giles Road on the north end of Papillion's boundary with La Vista to the south to the Platte River, on the east side with our border with Bellevue, and then on the west to approximately 126th Street. In 2020, the city conducted a water master plan, which identified various expansion projects required to meet the demand of the projected growth in Sarpy County. Of these projects identified, the city is moving forward with the addition of a 2 million gallon clear well storage tank and an accessory building on this property at hand here, adjacent to the existing water treatment plant. That land was purchased by the city in approximately 2017, and it's from our existing site out to Platte V Road. The proposed clear well is a 2 million gallon ground level storage tank that will hold our treated water ready to be pumped with high service pumps into town to our in-town storage tanks and towers. The proposed accessory building is approximately 18,000 square foot building that will include vehicle and equipment storage, staff, locker rooms, and a small admin space. The city has worked closely with Sarpy County staff in this process with planning and platting of this property. So I'd like to thank the staff at this time for the help in providing help along the way with that. So again, I thank you for your consideration of this item and subsequent items, and I'll be available for questions if any of you have any. Thank you.
Question for staff. It looks like one motion on both this first application and second application covers both of them. Is that correct?
Yeah, one motion for the comprehensive plan amendments for both the future land use and the growth management zones.
Okay. Unless there's questions, I'd be prepared to make a motion.
Yeah, I did. I need to close it now.
Sorry. Go for it.
I will now close the public hearing on these two items. Is there any further discussion by the commissioners? I will then ask for a motion. Tom?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the proposed amendments to the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan as shown on the exhibits for the future land use map, map 12, and the growth management map, map 13, on the subject property known as Lot 1 Skelgas Addition, and the northeasterly portion of tax lot 1A1, section 22, township 13 north, range 12 east of the 6 prime meridian of Sarpy County, Nebraska, as they are consistent and compatible with the surrounding area and the overall comprehensive plan and goals objectives.
Second, Preston.
Please vote. Seven yeas, motion carries.
Okay, item number 3. This is a rezoning from agricultural farming district to light industrial of the property legally described as the northeasterly part of tax lot 1A1 in section 22, T13N, R12 east of the 6th post-meridian Sarpy County, and preliminary plat and final plat for a subdivision to be commonly known as Lot 1 Papillion Water Treatment Plan, being platting of part of tax lot 1A1 of the northwest corner of the northeast corner of section 22, T13 north or 12 east of the 6th post-meridian, and Lot 1 Skelgast Addition, Sarpy County, generally located southwest of South 87th Street and Platte V Road. The applicant is the City of Papillion. We will have 3 motions at the end of this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I kind of zipped through all of the material at first, so I'll just kind of make a couple of highlights here for the rezoning and preliminary plat. Again, this the Papillion preferred to have light industrial in this area because of the flexibility, and the county preferred that because it has standards, performance standards tied to it as well, light industrial. The proposal is for the plat requires conformance with the highway corridor overlay, so they have submitted landscaping plans which are included in the packet. So was these profiles here of the views, and so screening to overhead doors, those sorts of things that are within the highway corridor overlay are part of their submittal here, as well as that screening. Yep, and so I kind of highlighted what would be in the agreement, the subdivision agreement. There's some right-of-way issues to work through, and then and a line about future land use if this ever gets abandoned and sold. So I'll just go through the motions here. Rezoning, staff recommends approval of the rezoning from ag to IL, light industrial, for a proposed subdivision to be known as Papillion Water Treatment Plant Lot 1, subject to the comments found in the staff report and attachments. Staff also recommends approval of the preliminary and final plat of a subdivision to be known as Papillion Water Treatment Plant Lot 1, subject to the applicant resolving all comments in the Planning Department review letter dated December 1st, 2023, and from the County Surveyor's Office regarding a potential issue concerning ownership of the property on 87th Street. Staff makes these recommendations as the proposal meets the requirements of the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan zoning regulations and subdivision regulations. Please let me know if you have questions or need me to show anything here on the screen. Thank you.
Okay, I will open this item for public hearing at this stage. Is there anybody who would like to address the board? I will now close the public hearing portion of this item. Is there any input from the commissioners? I would then ask for a motion with regards to this item, motion on the rezoning, motion on the preliminary plat, and motion on the final plat.
I would move to recommend approval of the rezoning from AG Agricultural Development to IL Light Industrial for proposed subdivision to be known as Papillion Water Treatment Plat 1, Lot 1, subject to the comments found in the staff report and attachment included in the packet. And I make this recommendation as the proposal is consistent with the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and complies with the requirements of the Sarpy County zoning regulations.
Second.
Please vote. Seven yeas, nays none, motion carries.
And I will move to recommend approval of the preliminary plat of a subdivision to be known as Papillion Water Treatment Plat Lot 1, subject to the applicant resolving all comments in the Planning Department review letter dated December 1st, 2023. And I make this recommendation as the preliminary plat proposal meets the requirements of the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan, zoning, and subdivision regulations.
Second.
Please vote. Seven yeas, nays none, motion carries.
I will move to recommend approval of the final plat of a subdivision to be known as Papillion Water Treatment Plant Lot 1, subject to the applicant resolving all comments in the Planning Department review letter dated December 1st, 2023, and from the County Surveyor's Office regarding a potential issue concerning the ownership of property on 87th Street, and I make this recommendation as the final plat proposal meets the requirements of the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan, zoning, and subdivision regulations.
Second?
Please vote. Seven yeas, nays none, motion carries.
Okay then, item number 4, text amendments to the Sarpy County zoning regulations, section 43, amendments and rezoning. The applicant is Sarpy County Planning and Building Department.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so this is the start of the other project, and this is a text amendment. So in September of 2020, a text amendment to section 43 of the zoning regulations was passed, and this limited rezoning on a lot of record. Part of the justification for this amendment was the county's ability to enter into an agreement on properties where future infrastructure improvements will be required. So the Sarpy County Planning Department is now proposing a text amendment to allow rezoning on parcels that are not a lot of record when rezoning to ag. This amendment is the result of associated applications for rezoning and special use permit to allow a sand mining operation on a property in the ag zoning district, and would eliminate the requirement to plat the subject property of the special use permit. Parcels being rezoned to ag are limited to the uses listed in the ag zoning district, which does not include urban development. A development agreement would be likely premature and most likely would require revisions when the property is then ready for development in the future. Anyway, so additionally, platting property can trigger requirement to set aside up to 60% of the gross area for the purpose of either providing for the purpose of providing public services to a future development, or protecting sensitive features such as a creek that's erodible. So these, the text amendment here, let me get to it, sorry, I didn't have it there. This is the text amendment, just to add that verbiage to allow them to rezone on a lot that's not a lot of record. So staff is recommending approval of the text amendments to the Sarpy County zoning regulations, section 43, amendments and rezoning as shown in attachment A, the redlined copy of the Sarpy County zoning regulations, section 43. Staff makes these recommendations as the proposal is in compliance with the Sarpy County zoning regulations. Let me know if you have any questions on this motion.
I will now open the public hearing on this item. I invite you to give your input on the proposed action.
Good evening, Commissioners. Patrick Sullivan, 1246 Golden Gate Drive here in Papillion. This text amendment was kind of driven by what you'll see in the further applications ahead of you. As we went through the process and looked at what was going on, it really looked like we're actually kind of pulling back, that this property probably shouldn't even necessarily be light industrial, and this would be a temporary use before it then gets forward to a permanent use. Seems like when we're going to plat and go through development provisions and everything else, it would be when the point that you got to a permanent development, if you will. The changes and the directions and everything that needed to be done, which, for lack of a better term, just kind of making a mess and would have to be changed several times. Made sense. We're going to step back, do a sand and gravel operation in the ag zone. Once that gets done and gets ready for its final use, makes more sense to then plat it then. So that's the purpose of kind of turning back the clock a little bit on this and going back to ag.
Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board? I will now close the public portion of the hearing on this item. Is there any discussion by the commissioners?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a question, and I'm going to try and separate it to the text amendment, not what's coming in the future in 10 minutes. I've got a bunch of RE2. You made a comment, take it back to ag to avoid requirements of the RE2, potentially. Like build through. So if somebody puts together a bunch of RE2s or RE1s to get to 20 acres and replat it, they've just avoided all the build through, all the sewer use connection fees. That doesn't seem logical in my brain. If we've already platted it as RE2 or RE1, whatever, again, trying to separate the future here. I'm just not, the comment about to avoid things like the stream erosion and that kind of stuff spooks me a little bit.
So,
So that's my concern. And then a question, and Tom might be the only guy around long enough to remember. Was Sandpit IL prior to all the redo of the comprehensive master plan and everything several years ago? Do we have sand pits now that are in IL zones?
we don't. We have, they're all in ag
Okay.
and they're all in floodplain.
Okay.
And, yeah. So,
So back to my first one
First
is
question.
I'm a little concerned, rolling back to ag to avoid requirements, do a bunch of stuff and then try and roll it forward again.
right. And fair question. And I'll attempt to answer. The requirements, if it's RE2 and it's in the urban reserve zone, which is where it's required to have that's that overlay where you have the build through with the 60%. So when the property is ready to be developed in the future, assuming it would be, if it goes back to ag, then it would be replatted 10, 20 years later. And then at that point, it would apply because that's when it's being developed. That's when infrastructure is being planned out. That's when roads, sewer, those sorts of things are being put in, and buildings are being built near sensitive features. And so at this point, the sensitive features of like a creek, an erodible creek, still applies. The 3 to 1 plus 50 creek setback applies for all building permits. So there wouldn't be a 40% overlay on the conservation thing or an environmentally sensitive on if it goes back to ag because it's not being platted. But at the future developable, like when it's ready to be developed, that's when these things start to take effect.
Right. I just want to make sure we are confident, or you as staff are confident you've thought all the permutations that may happen, and
Yeah.
again, separating the future. I don't know. It just seems. I'm afraid we're opening a can of worms that might pickle us later. Wording it the way we've worded it, but maybe I'm just being nervous for nothing.
The way it was worded was intentional, so that every if a rezoning were to happen, then it would have to meet the setbacks and the regulation of ag. So if you have an RE2 zoning, that is, I believe, a 50-foot setback in the front yard, we'll say. I don't know that for sure, but I think it's 50 feet. Ag is 100 feet. So if there's a house that's within that setback, it won't qualify for this, at least on the surface here, but we would have to kind of get into that. So there's, the way it's worded is that it strictly has to meet the ag zoning district, which this project does meet that. All the setbacks are met for ag and that sort of thing. So, but we'll get into that as well.
I guess, Doug, on your question, as I'm thinking about it here, your rezoning, it only applies for a lot of record. So again, chances are it's going to be heavy industrial or light industrial that's old unplatted ground. Your example of RE2, chances are we don't have RE2 until it's platted. So it's probably, again, I appreciate the example, but more than likely they're going to fall into this IL or heavy industrial ground if we are going backwards.
Yeah. And for sure, there's no way to, in this situation, I don't know that there's any way to really see every situation that could come up, but we did run through scenarios. We did look through the mapping and tried to find some of those lots that were just kind of out of the ordinary. There are AGRs that are unplatted. Some of these a little bit smaller than ag do exist because rezoning was allowed without platting before, without a lot of record before. So they definitely do exist out there. But
Is there any other input from the commissioners? I would then ask for a motion on this item.
I would move that we recommend approval of the changes to the Sarpy County zoning regulations, Section 43, which is amendments and rezoning, as shown in Attachment A provided this evening, which is a redlined copy of SCZR Section 43. And I make this motion because the text amendments as outlined and shown in the detail in Attachment A are consistent with the overall zoning regulations of Sarpy County.
Second?
Please vote. Yeas 6, nays 1. Whitfield, motion carries.
Okay then, item 5 is a comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use map from light industrial to agriculture on 4 parcels legally described as 1 tax lot P, and that point of tax lots F and H lying north and west of tax lot P, together with tax lot 5A in section 2, T12 north, R11 east, to the point of government lot 7 lying north and west of tax lot 2A, and that of point tax lot 2A in the southwest quarter in section 1, T12 north, R11 east, 3, that point of tax lot H lying south and east of tax lot P in section 2, T12 north, R11 east, and 4, point of tax lot F lying south and east of tax lot P in section 2, T12, R11 east, all of the 6th post-meridian in Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located northeast of Highway 50 and Cornish Road. The applicant is Plains Sand and Gravel and Sarpy County Planning Department.
do you need some water? You okay?
I'm getting there.
Yeah, that's a long one. So the applicant is proposing a sand and gravel mining operation on 3 parcels, generally located northeast of Highway 50 and Cornish Road, which is permitted with a special use permit in the agricultural farming district. So one of these 3 parcels is currently zoned ag. It's actually this one right here. The other 2 parcels to the north are currently zoned light industrial. And have a future land use of light industrials as well. For these 2 parcels to be rezoned to ag, the future land use designation must change from light industrial to agriculture. Sarpy County is also a co-applicant to change future land use to ag for the 2 small adjacent parcels with the arrows on them here. So we're making that change to avoid the creation of a conflicting future land use in this area. So based on the analysis of the Sarpy County zoning regulations, the comprehensive plan, and historical documents in this area, staff makes following statements regarding the rezoning and future land use changes. The abandonment and sale of railroad right-of-way for main lines and business spurs in this area is likely the cause of many randomly shaped and sized parcels, as well as the prevalence of light industrial zoning in this area. Rezoning to the ag zoning district will encourage a less industrial use on this property, which includes soil that is no longer served, which includes an area that's no longer served by the railroad. It's in the floodplain. The soil is severely limited it's categorized as severely limited for urban development in the comprehensive plan, and it's not planned for city services. So ag future land use will restrict rezoning applications to zoning districts that are less dense and allow use types that are more rural in nature. So you just read the comprehensive plan amendment motion, correct, only?
Yes,
Okay.
there are 2 more to come.
So staff is recommending approval of the proposed amendments to the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan, changing the future land use from light industrial to ag, as shown on the exhibits for the future land use map on the subject property listed on the motion in this recommendation report. So staff makes this recommendation as the proposal is with the comments and condition, or as the proposal is it complies with the comprehensive plan goals and objectives, and in compliance with the Sarpy County zoning regulations. So I can come back up to make the rezoning motion later, but if you have questions for now, let me know. Thanks.
I will now open the public hearing for this item. I invite you to give your input on the proposed item. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? I will now close the public hearing on this item. Is there any discussion from the commissioners?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment, I guess an observation. When I first look at this, it seemed to be almost the opposite of what I would expect that would be happening here, in that we have a light industrial district adjacent to the north and across the road to the northwest, or to the north, I guess. And we have an light industrial district to the south. It takes us basically down to the river. And as far as consistency and compatibility, it would almost seem to me that to be consistent and compatible, that we would be leaving the light industrial property as light industrial and be moving the ag property over to light industrial to be consistent. So, we have got existing warehouse buildings immediately to the south. What's going to happen to the property on the north that's light industrial, I presume would be for light industrial unless we changed all that too. But if we don't, if we're just looking at changing this here, it seems to me that we're not very compatible with the two adjacent uses.
Is that a comment or?
Just, that's my comment, my observation, yeah.
I have a question for staff. Do we know when this was converted from ag to IL?
It's unclear, the history of that. It does appear, though, that this was, like I said, railroad. There's two lines coming in, kind of at this diagonal triangle shape that goes down to the Platte River, and then that continues onto the two bridges, and then spurs in between there. So the land is very segmented in that area, but those railroads no longer serve this area. So that was the comment that I made there.
And with that comment, it wouldn't be the first time somebody's owned a bunch of property thinking something was going to happen and it didn't happen, and things change.
Is there an estimate of how long a mining operation would be taking place on this property?
Yeah, this property, this particular project is about 10 years. So there's phasing involved in that as well. But yeah, 10 years.
Is there any thought as to what this property would become after the mining operation closes?
I can let the landowner is here today, but he can speak for that. But I can quickly just state that we've talked about potential residential lakeside zoning there, or some sort of lakeside residential development. But yeah, that would depend on what we could rezone to, what the density is going to be allowed to be. There's floodplain in this area, so septic is a difficult thing to kind of mix in that at a lower water table area, or just lower floodplain. And then, so like I said, utilities aren't planned for this area. So there's some hurdles that we'll have to address at that point. But at this point, there's no clear plan. There's no set in stone plan.
I guess, Mr. Gift, going back to your comment, a question for staff, the only way to really address that and leave it as light industrial based on the proposed use coming up is if we would change zoning to allow sand and gravel operations in light industrial, right?
Yeah.
That was contemplated at all, or discussed? That
was definitely contemplated, sorry. Yeah, some of the reasons we didn't go that route was that it's potentially an unintended consequences in the IL zoning areas that are not in this area. So areas that are, what can we don't want to have something allowed in those areas that we're not prepared to have in those areas, if that makes any sense at all. But just that unintended consequence, to summarize. We believe that the ag zoning gives its property a clean slate. It's in the Springfield future land use area, or future growth area. So they're interested. They made comments. City of Springfield made comments. So the future has bearing on why we think the clean slate helps with this area. Again, that floodplain and lack of city services is potentially a big issue for an urban, something meant for urban typically, or that allows urban uses. And then so the history of the area is another reason we kind of went that route as well, is that, I explained that it was railroad. And so it was meant for IL. That's why it was rezoned to IL. Most likely wasn't there, so don't know for sure. But and then the comp plan really just kind of calls for light industrial to be in more areas that are going to be urbanized and out of the floodplain. So to stay consistent with the comp plan, we feel like this is the best option as far as that goes. But yes, it definitely was looked at to add that as a special use permit in light industrial.
I guess from my perspective, reverting to ag for all the reasons we discussed in the previous applications makes sense. I guess maybe the tougher one is 10 years or further down the road if we're asked to make residential next to light industrial, unless that use around it changes to the north and the west.
I think that's kind of my reservation a little bit too, is because I'm just thinking of the future. If this is a later action, but if we move forward with something with regard to the sand and gravel operation, I really don't know what alternative use for that property would, that 100 acres or whatever it is, would be after it's done being mined. There's not much surface area left to do much for anything but possibly a residential development. And then the question is, do we want, if that's where we're to go, or and I don't know where else it could go, do you want a residential development in amongst all this light industrial property? So, I kind of got the cart ahead of the horse a little bit, but that's kind of my thinking when I'm looking at all this. So,
Yeah. I've got a question probably for Ms. Hathcote more than anybody. Since we assume all of this ground up and down there got zoned IL because of the railroad, does the county have the authority to rezone property without the owner's consent? I guess what I'm asking is, should we come through and figure out, okay, this was a mistake somebody made X years ago, we're going to fix it. We're going to take all this back to ag. Mm-hmm. That fixes our incompatibility in the future issue.
Can do it in a comprehensive plan change. I don't know about changing somebody's zoning.
Apparently not, based on the grimace.
Well, regardless, it would still have to go through the public process, so they would still give their input anyways. I wouldn't imagine that the county board would approve that against their will.
There would be much
I don't know the
discussion.
authority of it, but I don't the practicality of it. It doesn't seem.
We did look through, just as a part of the exercise, to kind of like what's allowed there, because we knew we could do that with the comp plan amendment,
right?
But we couldn't necessarily do that with rezoning. But it doesn't clearly, to me, it didn't clearly state that the landowner has to be an applicant. But we would definitely, if that were a direction to head, that would be something that would be highly discussed. It would be an active discussion with the landowners. But there is some language to kind of ruffle through with that and understand a little bit more. So I don't know that I'm prepared to fully answer that.
Okay, that's fair. It fixes the incompatibility problems for the future, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's like we looked at those two little nubs on the edges of this property, of these two larger parcels, and we couldn't rezone those anyway because they're less than 20 acres. So we couldn't rezone those to ag anyway. But rezoning without the landowner's permission is, we would definitely need to be talking with them. I think is kind of the overall idea.
Is there any other input from the commissioners? Okay, I will ask then for a motion on the comprehensive plan amendment.
Ms. Hathcote, are you going to be able to sleep tonight if we just refer to the 4 specific parcels referenced in the application instead of reading the meets and bounds descriptions?
I'll sleep like a baby.
Excellent.
I appreciate that, believe me.
I did it too.
In that case, Mr. Chair, I'd recommend approval of the proposed amendments to the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan, changing the future land use from LI to AG, as shown on the exhibits for the future land use map, map 12, on the 4 specific properties referenced in this application, all of which are in, bear with me, 6 Prime Meridian, Sarpy County, Nebraska, as they are consistent and compatible with the surrounding area and with the overall comprehensive plan goals and objectives.
I'll second.
Please vote. Six yeas, one against. Gift. Motion carries.
Okay. Item number 6, rezoning from light industrial to agricultural farming district on 2 parcels legally described as 1 tax lot P and that point of tax lot F and H lying north and west of tax lot P together with tax lot 5A in section 2 T12 north R 11 east and 2 that point of government lot 7 lying north and west of tax lot 2A and that point of tax lot 2A in southwest corner in section 1 T12 north or 11 east, all of the 6th prime meridian in Sarpy County, generally located northeast of Highway 50 and Cornish Road. Applicant is Plains Sand and Gravel.
Thank you, Colin. Really, the report's the same for the rezoning, so I'll just go through the recommendation. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning from light industrial to agricultural farming district as shown on the exhibits for the zoning district map on the subject property listed on the motion and the recommendation above. And staff makes this recommendation as the proposals are consistent with the comprehensive plan goals and objectives and in compliance with the Sarpy County zoning regulations. Let me know if you have any questions.
I will now open the public hearing portion on this item. I invite you to give your input on the proposed item.
Good evening again, Commissioners. Patrick Sullivan, I'm representing Plains Sand and Gravel, the applicant, as well as the owner, Advantage Investments. Again, this is to move out of the light industrial back into agricultural farming district, which I will say agricultural farming district and light industrial, they're just 2 types of different industrial uses, very compatible in a sense anyway. But this is simply to get into the ag farming district to qualify for the special use permit that would come up later as we proceed forward and requesting your vote for approval for this. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board? I will now close the public portion of the hearing on this item. Do the commissioners have any input?
Mr. Chairman, I have another question for staff, and it may not pertain exactly to this request, but we're leaving 2 little teeny tiny triangles behind. Is there anything in our rules, regulations, procedures, laws, whatever you want to call them, to get that parcel to ag, even though it's that individual parcel's less than 20 acres, but it's owned and surrounded by, it just.
And it's a confusing thing to get into the history is the issue, I think, here with if you look, the owner of those 2 properties are the owner of a tax lot up north, or a parcel up north. And so when the right-of-way dissected, those just kind of got left out on the sales, potentially. That might be what happened. But I think it would maybe have to go through something with the owners to transfer those pieces potentially. I don't know, but we can't rezone to ag because of it not meeting the 20-acre minimum.
So in the.
As it is.
Okay. Is the applicant the owner of those 2 little triangular pieces?
No.
In the previous motion, or the previous Agenda item number 6,
5.
or 5, sorry. I guess my bad, I was under the assumption, so we just comprehensive planned a change, but not a legit change. Okay, never mind.
It's a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, different owners wrecks my whole question, so.
For the comp, just to clarify, for the comp plan amendment, we did all 4, the 2 larger for the special use permit applicant, or the property owner for that, and those 2 little tiny triangles we included because we wanted it to match. So, yeah. And then rezoning could be that.
Is there any other input from the commissioners? I would then ask for a motion on rezoning.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a recommendation for approval of the rezoning from light industrial to ag farming district on the subject 2 properties as specifically set forth in this application, each of which are in the 6th prime meridian, Sarpy County, Nebraska, as they are consistent and compatible with the surrounding area and with the overall comprehensive plan goals and objectives.
Second, Preston.
Please vote. Six yeas. 1 against. GIF. Motion carries.
Okay then. Next item, item 7. Special use permit in the agricultural farming district to allow the extraction and processing of sand and gravel on 3 parcels legally described as 1 tax lot P and that point of tax lots F and H lying north and west of tax lot P together with tax lot 5A in section 2 T12 north or 11 east and 2 the point of government lot 7 lying north and west of tax lot 2A and that point of tax lot 2A in the southwest corner in section 1 T12 north or 11 east and 3 tax lots M1, M2 and 3B in section 11 T12 north or 11 east, all of the 6th prime meridian in Sarpy County, generally located northeast of Highway 50 and Cornish Road. The applicant is Plains Sand and Gravel.
Thank you, Colin. The following notes pertain to the special use permit to operate a sand and gravel mining operation in the ag zoning district. This mining operation will last approximately 10 years. It'll be phased, starting near the center of the subject property, with the final phase at the south end of the property. Mining operations will cover 6 to 12 acres per year, depending on the sand and gravel deposits that are there. Mining operations will take place 10 to 12 hours per day, 5 to 6 days per week. The plant will have approximately 5 to 10 employees on site during regular working hours. Material will be sold at the site year-round. Mining operations will typically stop in the winter months. There are 2 access points, one at the northwest corner on the site for the public and plant operations, and another at the southwest corner of the subject property. So at this main operations access, I'll zoom in here. There's approximately 50 to 70 trucks per day that could enter and leave the site from the access at the northwest corner of the property. The applicant has been working with NDOT to make improvements at this access points, or make plans for the improvements, and comments were received from NDOT regarding the northwest access point. NDOT stated they are not willing to grant a deeded permanent access to the property. The permitted access will have a sunset date determined by the conclusion of the mining operation. And there will be no commitment to access at this location when the 4-lane expansion of Highway 50 is made. The applicant has also finalized an easement with the Papio, Missouri NRD to cross the pedestrian trail, which will need to be filed with the Register of Deeds for this special use permit to take effect. So just to kind of jump in here, this is the trail, the Papio NRD trail, this white stripe right here. And the easement will go across the property, which is on either the black line here, the black dashed lines on either side of that white line. I'm going to zoom out and then back in. Sorry, this is a large. So basically at the shop maintenance building, there's one being proposed at the southwest end of the site. Let's see if I can get down there. The building will need to comply with Sarpy County floodplain regulations and adopted building code in effect at the time of the building permit application submittal. Approximately 10 vehicles could be entering and exiting on a working day. Cars, rock trucks, and other sand and gravel machinery are anticipated to use this access point. There will be no access from this access point to the north for those trucks. So there will be there is a note on the plan that has been added there. The proposal also includes a 3-wire perimeter safety fence. The subject property is within the City of Springfield's future growth area, and comments were received from them regarding screening from Highway 50. Sarpy County Planning did receive updated submittals from the applicant based on comments that were sent to the applicant on December 1st. Full review of the submittal by planning and local agencies is in progress. All comments from the December 1st letter shall be addressed before scheduling the county board hearing. At least that's going to be our contingency. So as a result of the comments that City of Springfield made on screening, the applicant did submit updated plans to include screening using landscaping and berming from certain vantage points at Highway 50. They also included some pictures and profile spots where you can kind of see what the view is like currently on site from Highway 50. The landowner has expressed interest in development of the site after mining is done, but does not have a detailed development plan at this point. Future redevelopment of the site will likely require additional applications through the governing jurisdiction at that time. Mining operations will comply with and operate under a floodplain development permit as described in section 29.5 of the Sarpy County zoning regulations and the special use permit performance standards as described in section 40.5.1 of the Sarpy County zoning regulations. Staff recommends approval of the special use permit application, allowing the operation of a sand and gravel mining operation for as long as Plains Sand and Gravel is the operator and Advantage Development is the landowner in the agricultural farming floodplain zoning districts on the subject property listed on the motion in the recommendation report, contingent upon the following. All comments contained in the December 1st, 2023 letter to the applicant from the county must be addressed along with the review and approval of the exhibits prior to scheduling the applications for the county board's consideration. Number 2, an approved floodplain development permit from Sarpy County Planning Department for development, for any development being done in the floodplain prior to the starting of the mining operations. So to be clear on that, we could move forward without to county board without the floodplain development permit being approved just before they start operation. Approval of the proposed text amendment and the comp plan amendment and the rezoning are also conditional as number 3. Staff makes these recommendations as the proposals with the comments and conditions as noted are consistent and compatible with the surrounding area and with the overall comprehensive plan goals and objectives in compliance with the Sarpy County zoning regulations. If you have any questions, please be sure to let me know.
I will now open the public hearing portion on this item.
You're stuck with me just one last time. Again, Patrick Sullivan on behalf of the applicant, Plain Sand and Gravel. Brian Buckingham, who's a representative and owner of that company, is here today, as well as the owner. Advantage Investment, Alan Hands is the representative and owner for that company. Can probably get into more detailed questions. I just want to point a few things out in respect to the application. I don't know if we can pull the picture back up, but how do I do that? There we go. Thank you. This property will be bermed all along the highway there, as well as having additional trees planted. There's already a pretty good thick growth of trees there. Typically what's called for buffering when you're separating it from another use, there really isn't any other use other than agriculture over to the west anyway. And based on the speed limit that's there, assuming that traffic is flowing at 65, you pass this place in 37 seconds. There's also going to be some buffering there on that little small housing, single house there toward the bottom corner, if you can see that as well. One of the large advantages of this, and I think an advantage from the county perspective, particularly Public Works, is we'll be immediately entering onto the highway and not traveling 2 or 3 miles down rock roads, which is what we're seeing on most sand and gravel operations where we're getting complaints with dust and so forth. Additionally, it's getting to a point with the county growing as fast as it is and some of the sand pits being used up that it's making it more and more difficult to find places to operate gravel operations, and as well as being close proximity to that development. All of us kind of drove here today because sand and gravel operations exist and created the roads that we have today. If you want more detail with respect to the operating agreement, I think most of the questions have been answered. As Jason has mentioned, we have a lot of other permitting to do. Right now, what we're asking the Planning Commission to look at is whether this makes sense to use the property in the manner that it is and makes consistent with your comprehensive plan. I'll answer any other questions, or we certainly can have technical questions answered by Caleb Snyder with Lamper Nearson, as well as operating questions by Brian Buckingham.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Hello. For the property owners, that little house that's right there on the corner, we just have a couple questions.
Excuse me, can you please state your name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Ronnie Bruner,
And I'm her husband, Kent Bruner.
and we live at 14901 Cornish Road. That's the little house. We did hear that the hours of operation will be roughly 10 to 12 hours a day for 5 to 6 days a week. I was wondering if there was any way, do you have any better idea of what times the hours of operation would be? I didn't know if that was on the special use permit. How long does the special use permit last? Maybe I missed that part. And I also heard that the main road for entrance and exit for the trucks will be, we call it the cabin road, the road north of us. Is that like set in stone? So we really don't want the 50 to 75 dump trucks rolling past, rolling up our lane that we have the easement on. And then I noticed the little shed, well, not little shed, but the 75 by 100 like workshop on the lane. Will there be any type of maintenance that the sand pit will be doing for that easement that we use as our driveway? Because I know for a fact, I don't know if the water table's really close at the far west end of the lane. That part's always soft and it gets torn up very easily when heavy trucks come up and down our road for like propane. So that was a concern if they're gonna maintain that easement that we have on that road, so that we don't have to put a lot of additional rock consistently every year because of the weighted trucks.
And also the little circles drawn around that, are those a berm they said they're gonna put in? Or what is?
What type of noise barrier are we talking about?
Berm with the planting on it. I believe it was a berm. Yeah. Okay.
How tall?
4 to 5 feet.
So we'd be done if it flooded again. Because everything
all?
drains off our property right into those fields and down into the
Would
wetlands.
you prefer that it's just landscaping in that area or?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we wouldn't want.
Yeah, we don't want to get anything to change our level to where,
The water's entrapped
yeah,
there.
the water gets entrapped in there. Because
During the last flood, that's what,
Yeah.
that's the
'cause it
thing
was
that saved us, it all flowed that way out of the
finally,
yard.
when the snow broke through and it all released, that's what finally dropped it down. Nothing ever got in the house, just still
Through the yard,
sucks
you
having
know?
all your.
That could be made, that adjustment could be made, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Can you maybe pull up the map, Jason, as you're describing that?
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Do you want me to zoom in on a certain spot?
Oh, like our property?
Where our house is down on the farm.
Yeah, sorry.
See, the maintenance building, kind of strange that they're not doing it next to where the scale house is. 'Cause, I mean, the scale's been there forever. I know Louis put scale in a long time ago. Scale house, I just kind of worry
Thank you.
why they're doing the maintenance shop where they're doing the maintenance shop. I mean, I believe people should be able to do what they want on their property. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for, you bought it, you should be able to do what you want. You know what I mean? I just,
Yeah, we would definitely prefer not to have a 4 or 5 foot berm on the outside
yeah,
of our
we
yard.
don't want that at all.
Yeah.
Because that'll lock.
Because we tore down some of our, like,
Yeah.
old horse fence, because debris was caught, and it raised the water in our yard.
I should ask Caleb if that change can be made, right? Like just sort of technical. Yeah, okay. From our standpoint.
Yeah,
It's really just separation between you and the use here to meet our landscaping regulations, but there'd be I can speak into the microphone here, but there's a fence planned for this perimeter here just to kind of keep the people out.
Yeah, whatever you need to
So
keep
lightly.
people safe, I get it.
Right, and then but I think I heard you maybe say that this was this was the main entrance.
No, I know
Okay,
the
you
main
did say that.
entrance is up
It's
there.
this one. Okay,
Which is awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
love it.
okay, perfect.
Won't be traffic past us, I just,
But I know right where that shed's at, our lane is always soft there. I don't know if there's a high water table, some type of,
or when the land got, previous owner did do a raise there, because I think he was planning on putting a shop or something there, not a maintenance for 10 people, but his own personal deal. Could be when he raised there, it traps some of the water in that area, and it gets real soft up there on that top of that road.
Right.
But that's just the easement across for, we may maintained it, put rock on it, mowed it, but we don't own it, we just have the easement to
enter the property.
go across it from when we bought the property, so.
I just don't want to, my fear is that we maintain the lane, and with the extra traffic up there, that will be just like big old ruts and stuff. I just need some assurance that that won't happen, I guess.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
Because it really changed we got industrial around us, there's, you know what I mean, and that never really bothered us. They're all doing their, during the work week while we work, and they kind of keep an eye on our place and see a stranger, and we kind of keep an eye on theirs, you know what I mean? We have a good relationship with the other businesses that are in there, but
So that was my question.
Yeah.
the maintenance building sitting right in front of us, kind of, and it seems, like I say, people should be able to do what they want to do. But to build the shop there instead of by where their scale house is and where their operations, that means they're just going to be traveling to, I mean, I don't know how just in my mind.
Just a concern.
That
Yeah.
You think and they are going to start on the far end and
Work towards our
slowly
house?
Towards our house kind of deal. Anyway, that's just
Okay.
our concern.
You mentioned about the hours, Brian? Did you have any?
Okay.
During the working
6 to 6.
production hours, but during the winter time, 7 to 4.
Yeah, I know, it's not gonna be super loud. Not like you're doing rock and having rock crushers.
I was just asking.
Yep, yep, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
If we need to modify the operating statement to include those hours in there, so
Great.
everybody knows, we have no problem with that. And the entrance there, we will maintain that.
Pretty sure he's meant to come up here and address
Also, if you guys need some rock
Speak it.
for past that. I'm just not gonna do that.
Great. Thank you. That's all.
Great. Thank you.
Is there any other input from the public? I will close the public portion of the hearing on this item. Do the commissioners have any input?
I just have a simple question for staff. The way the recommendation is written, it refers to the comments from December 1st, but there are some additional comments from NDOT after December 1st. So it's just a technicality. We'd want to make sure that any motion includes all of their concerns and not just the ones.
That's a fair point. Yeah. Yeah, we did get those afterwards, so they weren't included on the December 1st. Yeah. So I agree with you.
Do you have an update on the status of the NDOT concerns raised in their letter and what's going to be done to address them?
The only thing I know is, me and Caleb can answer it a lot better, but they've been working with them on an application. There's a separate application through NDOT to work in the right of way and get this access up to snuff for them and meet those. So there's plans in there. I believe your second submittal, Caleb. And so did you tell me that they hadn't gotten back after that?
So we have not heard.
Yeah. Yep.
Sign in.
Yeah.
Good evening, Caleb Snyder with Lamper Harrison, 14710 West Dodge Road, Omaha, Nebraska. So to that point, so we have submitted a DR-19 and a DR-23 to NDOT to construct the access and then to occupy the right-of-way. And so I think that was submitted back in August of 2023. We went through 2 different submittals with them. The latest, I believe, we received comments from them early December, and we have revised our plans and resubmitted to them. So I think ultimately, their approval will come in the form of the approved DR-19 and the approved DR-23 that allows us to construct those improvements in their right-of-way. We believe we're close to them. We've addressed all of the comments that we've received officially through them, and hopefully we're days away from approval.
Sounds good. And to clarify, I said there's a separate application process through right-of-way with NDOT. And so those comments, the technical piece of the construction drawings and those sorts of things really go through NDOT. I'm not going to make that a condition here because that's a separate process. Really is just we made comments in December. You did get back to me. We just haven't had the time to really fully go through those revisions. So mostly it has to do with the other pieces of that, and just to ensure that they're all there and ready.
So when she says that it'll be slow moving and very disruptive, are your improvements mitigating that comment, or is the permit going to be granted notwithstanding that impact on the traffic?
So I think this facility is going to operate very similar to the Western Sand and Gravel, just further to the west. I think it's going to be a very similar operation to the Lyman Ritchie Sand and Gravel Pit on Highway 6. If NDOT would like an additional investigation or further analysis for that, we can do that. It's just the comment seems very broad. There's not an item that they're asking us to resolve. So they have asked to widen the driveway there so that we can accommodate 2 vehicles in the driveway off of the highway. So there's not a problem with cars stacking on the highway. So we have accommodated that. One other comment they asked us was to improve the shoulder further to the north and the east. So when vehicles are tracking out, that they're rutting up their shoulder. So we feel that we've addressed all their comments to date. That comment you're specifically mentioning, I don't know what their resolution is that they're asking for. If they could give us some more guidance there, we'd be happy to address that. It's a little vague in our eyes, and not something that we can say, yep, we can do this, or I guess we would need some more guidance from them, if that answers your question.
And I understand that's a separate process. I just wanted to know whether there's an update.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that everybody understands that the county doesn't control access to a state highway, and we don't have any way to control the operation on the state highway. So it's up to you and your client to address that.
Perfect. In our eyes, that will be resolved when we get these 2 permits from them. They will have said that we've satisfied all the requirements and that we are good to construct the improvements and then to operate at that access point.
Sounds good. And to also then clarify is that Caleb didn't receive the comments that were in there until just recently, which is my fault. I didn't. I just thought they were a part of the other comments, so did not get those to him. But they were less technical and more just kind of guidelines anyway. So just to be fair to Caleb here. So.
Appreciate it.
Caleb, I have one question. Did the NDOT give any indication of when this 4-lane expansion of Highway 50 might occur?
No, they did not. So we met with them back in March or April of 2023 as a form of a pre-app meeting, and they were present during that meeting. They're still very early in their design, exactly figuring out what this looks like. And Jason, I don't recall them laying out a time frame of when that 4-lane improvement would happen.
Yeah, I was hoping maybe you had an update.
I'm
but
sorry,
no,
I don't.
They don't have funding for it. And when I did talk to Tom Goodbarn from NDOT, he did state that it's just not close. But that could mean that they get, Charlie's smiling, so he knows that it could change, I'm sure. So, but I would think it's probably 10 years away.
That would be my guess of 10 years plus.
Yeah. But again, not an authority on that at all.
10 years.
Thank you.
So the sand and gravel operation to be done then, before they even 4 lanes.
I guess one question for staff or for Mr. Sullivan, so the easement that's currently on the south side that supports the homeowners that came here, does that require them to maintain that lane, that maybe an amendment needs to be done to the easement if now the landowner's going to be also using that lane?
I have not seen the specific language of the easement. My guess is with a gravel operation, it's going to be pretty simple for us to take care of anything that needs to get done anyway. So
I guess I'd maybe request you take a look at that, because if it was for their benefit originally, I bet the easement probably says they have to maintain it. And obviously they're raising the concern.
My guess is that would be the case, but given the operations that we're doing, it's pretty small change to take care of it.
I got a quick question. Is that the Wabash Trail kind of going right by there also?
Yeah, I forget. I thought it was the Mopac Trail, but it might be the Wabash. It's the Mopac. Okay.
Is that, obviously there's some bikes and people hiking, and looks like it's kind of right in the traffic zone there. Has that been talked about or?
Yep, so as part of our due diligence, we did coordinate with the Papio, Missouri NRD, who controls the access of this trail. And then I think in those plans that we've submitted to NDOT, we've shown the turning movement out of there. And so a truck can park on the, I don't know if I can, perfect. So a truck can fit, so it could be on the, I'll say the highway side of that trail and not overhang, impeding the flow of that bike trail. So we have coordinated that. Again, the NRD's approval came in the form of them signing off on that easement and agreeing to allow us to construct the access through there.
So basically you have a second stop sign at the trail.
Correct. So there will be stop signs. Yep. And then also on the trail.
I have one question for staff. During your presentation, you mentioned the December 1 letter and the comments, and are all the comments that need to be addressed in the packet? Have there been any receipt? I got a little confused. You talked about Springfield addressing something they wanted, but the Springfield letter was pretty benign, I thought, so.
There, I included a summary of comments of each that we had received at that time at December 1st. So I received, I kind of put together some of the comments, but so to answer your question quickly, it's yes, everything is in that letter that we need a response on.
Is there any other input from the commissioners? I would ask then for a motion on the special use permit.
There's no further discussion. I'd make a recommendation to approve the special use permit application allowing the operation of a sand and gravel mining operation for as long as the Plains Sand and Gravel is the operator and Advantage Development is the landowner in the AGFP, which is Agricultural Farming Floodplain Zoning Districts, on the 3 subject properties listed in the application, all contingent upon the following. 1, all comments contained in the various letters received by the department and contained in tonight's application from the county and other agencies must be addressed, along with the review and approval of the exhibits prior to scheduling the applications for the county board's consideration. 2, an approved floodplain development permit from Sarpy County Planning Department for any development being done in the floodplain prior to the start of mining operations. And 3, approval of the proposed text amendment miscellaneous 23-004, CPA 23-002, and the rezoning RZ 23-006 be approved. And I make this recommendation as a proposal with the comments and conditions as noted is consistent and compatible with the surrounding area and with the overall comprehensive plan goals and objectives and in compliance with the Sarpy County zoning regulations.
Second. Mr. Chairman, I would propose an amendment to the motion. I don't know if I'm doing this in the right order. Sorry, Kayla. I would like to propose amending the motion to include item number 4, that the hours of operation of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. be included in the operational plan.
I'd second that amendment.
I need to get a
We're all looking at Kayla
here.
So first you vote on the amendment, and then you vote on the motion that amended.
What's the question? What are you voting for first? Or do you want to?
We have a motion with a first and a second, followed by an amendment with a first and second during discussion. How should he proceed?
This is like a bar exam question. I think you could, do you want to just withdraw the original motion and amend it with adding the hours of operation and just vote once?
I think that's what I should do is withdraw the original motion here, then ask for a motion on the special use permit, including the hours of operation as proposed by Commissioner Whitfield.
Yeah, go for it.
Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so I will withdraw the initial motion on the special use permit, and I will now ask for a motion on the special use permit with an amendment to include hours of operation as proposed by Commissioner Doug Whitfield.
Yeah, sorry, Tom, I'll take the bullet for this one.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recommend approval of the special use permit application to allow the operation of a sand and gravel mining operation for as long as Plains Sand and Gravel is the operator and Advantage Development is the landowner in the AG floodplain zoning districts on the subject properties described in the staff report. Subject to the following conditions. Condition 1, all comments contained in the various letters to the applicant from the county must be addressed along with the review and approval of the exhibits prior to the scheduling of this application to the county board. Item 2, an approved floodplain development permit from Sarpy County Planning Department for any development being done along the floodplain is obtained prior to the start of mining operations. Condition 3, approval of the proposed text amendment, MISC 23004, CPA 23-002, and the rezoning RZ 006 has been approved. Item 4, that the hours of operation of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. be included in the operational memorandum of the applicant. I make this recommendation as the proposal with the comments and conditions as noted is consistent and compatible with the surrounding area and with the overall comprehensive plan goals and objectives, and it is in compliance with the Sarpy County zoning regulations.
Second.
Please vote. Six yeas, 1 against. That's GIF. Motion carries.
I'll now close the public portion of our meeting tonight. Are there any reports from the commissioners? How about the planning department?
Turn on the microphone. We approved, county board approved the special use permit for the childcare in the home that we came through here earlier in November. And then also that same day, we did the special use permit for gunsmithing. And so those two were approved by the county board. But as for next week or next month, we don't have any applications, so we don't have a meeting at this point. But keep you updated if that changes, but it shouldn't. So we should be set for most likely February, and we will have. We did receive 3 resignation letters in some of the when we had to renew and do it because of the expiration. So and. As a part of that, we'll have 3 new members coming next year. So that is all I've got at this point.
Colin, none of those are due to you being the chair.
Yeah, am I running off
Just
people
to say.
here?
No comment. Just kidding.
If there's no further items, I would like to wish everybody a happy and safe holiday season, and I will adjourn the meeting.